Welcome back. Couple notes before we begin. I've been working on these PowerPoint video type files for you to watch, which I think you should find very helpful for a lot of what we're doing here. That said, they're a little bit boring sometimes. I'm not sure there's really any getting around that. So, what I really suggest that you do is really figure out which of the elements for this course are going to work best to make sure that you understand what's going on. These videos, I think, are really nice. They should be really helpful for you. The PowerPoint type stuff should work as well. Use them as you see fit. You may need to use both, which is almost like sitting in two classes perhaps. You maybe only need one. Maybe sometimes you need one and then you need the other. So that's something you need to figure out. I hope that in total they work well for you. So today we need to talk about the verb ser. Oh, you can't see that. If you remember the other day, we discussed subject pronouns. Subject pronouns are really important as we begin looking at the verb ser, at our first verb that we're going to be looking at. So let's do a quick review and remember what the subject pronouns are. We had yo, which meant I. Tu, which was our singular, familiar way of saying you. We had usted, which is the formal singular you. And we had él and ella, which meant he and she. We then had nosotros and nosotras, which you'll remember meant we. Vosotros and vosotras, which mean it's kind of like a y'all. It's a you, plural, familiar. So it's basically the plural version of tú. And if you'll remember, and you could say out loud in the privacy of your own room, what country is this used in? It's only used in Spain. Okay? We then had ustedes. Ustedes was our formal you, all, right? So it's a plural you. Formal as opposed to vosotros. However, remember that in most countries around the world, ustedes is the only way that we have to say you all. So remember that. That's a really important one to get a lock on. Okay, so in Spain, we have 4 ways of saying you. We have the tú, which is the singular informal, and the vosotros, which is the plural informal, and we have the usted, which is the singular formal, and the ustedes, which is the plural formal. Outside of Spain, we only have 3 forms. So ustedes is the only way to speak to a group of people that we have, which means it's neither formal nor informal. It just is what it is. And our last 2 forms are ellos and ellas, which mean they. This is the form we'd use speaking about a mixed group. This is the form we'd use speaking about purely females. And ellos is also the form we'd use for just males. So just males are a mixed group, just females. All right. Now, I always like to write my verbs in this, my subject pronouns in this way. And the reason is that as we start looking at verbs, this format will be really helpful. So, let's look at this first verb that we have, ser. Ser is an irregular verb. It is totally irregular, meaning the only way to learn the verb ser is to memorize it. There's certain verbs that we're going to look at later that will follow a really nice pattern. They'll be really simple to learn. Once you learn how to do one, you'll be able to do all of them. Ser is not like that. Ser is an irregular verb. Okay? When we look at a verb, all of our verbs in Spanish will either end in AR, ER, or IR. And when we see the verb in its pure state like that, when we see the verb and it's ending in AR, ER, or IR, we say that that is the infinitive form of the verb. So this is the infinitive. That we see there. It's that basic unchanged form of the verb. In English, when we precede a verb with the word to, that's the infinitive form. So ser means to be. Okay, that's the infinitive form, to be. Now, what we do with verbs both in English and in Spanish is we change the form of the verb from the infinitive to a group of other forms. The reason we do that is because when we change the verb, it then corresponds to a specific subject. So for instance, in English, we have the verb to be, and I say, I am, you are, he is, she is, right? We are, y'all are, they are. These are all the different conjugations of the verb to be. In Spanish, we're always going to have 6 forms of every verb. English, we don't have that many usually, right? So in to be, we have I am, that's one. You are, that's another. He is, so that's 3 so far. But then, we are, y'all are, they are. So we only have 3 forms of the verb to be in English. Spanish, all of our verbs, every single one, will have 6 different forms to it. One thing that means is that our subject pronouns are oftentimes unnecessary to use. Okay, so as we look at the verb forms, we're going to have a specific verb form that goes with the subject yo, which means we don't even really have to say yo. Sometimes we will, but it's really never necessary. Sometimes we use it for clarification purposes or for emphasis purposes, but usually it's unnecessary. All right, so here are the forms of the verb ser. We have yo, soy. Tú, eres. Now all 3 of these subjects, usted, él, and ella, share one verb form, which is es. Okay, that means that if I'm speaking to one person formally, and I want to say, for instance, you are tall, I say, usted es alto. Usted es alto. You are tall. I use that same verb form if I want to say he is tall. So if I want to say he is tall, I say, él es alto. Okay? So it's that same verb form for all 3. Nosotros somos. Nosotros somos. Vosotros sois. And remember, this verb form will only be used in Spain because this subject is only used in Spain. And then once again, these 3, ustedes, ellos, and ellas, will share one verb form, which is son. Similar to over here, this means that if I want to say they are whatever they are, I would say ellos son. If I want to say they are, and I'm speaking about a group of only women, I say ellas son. And if I want to look at a group of people and I want to say to that group of people, you all are, I say ustedes son. It's the same form of the verb, whether it's ustedes, ellos, or ellas. Okay? So, let's look at a couple of examples with that. Early on, the first days of this class, as you look through your vocabulary, you'll have seen this question. ¿De dónde eres? You remember that de donde eres means where are you from? Literally, what we're saying here is of where are you? Or of where you are. It's a question, so of where are you? The way that we responded, if you remember, was something along the lines of soy de, let's say, New Jersey. Or soy de Mexico. Right here, we're talking about our origin using the verb ser. De donde eres, in the tu form. Okay, if I want to, I can say de donde eres tú. And then we're answering in the yo form. Soy de México. Or yo soy de México. So, if we take that same pattern, we can apply it to different forms of the verb ser. This is an expression we already know, but maybe some others would be interesting to look at that we don't know. So if I want to know, for instance, where Susie and Susana y Juanita are from, I would say, ¿de dónde son Susana y Juanita? ¿De dónde son Susana y Juanita? Of where are Susana y Juanita? Essentially, where are Susana and Juanita from? I can then respond in three possible ways to this. I can either say, Susana y Juanita son de México. Here I'm still using their names. The verb form has not changed because we're still talking about the same subjects. So notice in the original example, the verb form had to change because in the question, the subject is tú, and in the answer, the subject is yo. Here, in the question, the subject is Susana y Juanita, and in the answer, the subject is Susana y Juanita. So Susana y Juanita son de México. Or I can replace Susana y Juanita. What would the subject pronoun be that I'd replace Susana y Juanita with? Be. It would be ellas, because we have two women. We're speaking about them in the third person. So I could say, ellas son de México. Or, if I like, I don't have to say anything over here, and I could just answer, son de México. That would also be, they are from Mexico. Okay, a couple more examples. One way that we commonly use ser is to describe people or things. So if I want to say, for example, I am tall, which I don't know if you can tell on that end, but it's patently untrue. Soy alto. If I want to say, she is pretty, ella es bonita. If I want to say, we are intelligent, and say, nosotros somos inteligentes. Okay, nosotros somos inteligentes. So, important things to remember from this lesson. All verbs in Spanish have 6 forms. The first verb that we're looking at in this class is the verb ser, which is an irregular verb. Always still has 6 forms, but these 6 forms are forms that you're just going to have to memorize. There's no pattern. Those forms are yo soy, tú eres, él, ella, usted es, nosotros somos, vosotros sois, y ellos, ellas, or ustedes son. A couple other important things to remember. Each verb form corresponds to a subject. It has to always go with that subject. I cannot say ella soy. Doesn't work like that. Okay, it has to be yo soy, tú eres, etc. Finally, one more note. Remember that all of our subject pronouns, as we learned last time, are pronouns. They are therefore replacing proper nouns. So, nosotros, which means we, could perhaps be replacing something like Juan y yo. Juan and I can be replaced by nosotros if we wish. One more final note that I failed to mention last session and meant to mention at the beginning of this session, but as I was going through all 6 of the subject pronouns in the last session, I failed to mention the final one. I mentioned it at the beginning today, but didn't tell you that I had missed it last time. So the one that may have noticed was missing from last time was this ellos, ellas, or ustedes, which is our third person plural form. You'll see it in your book, you'll see it on the PowerPoint, and you saw it at the beginning of class today, but just notice that that was missing from that last session. Ellos, ellas, and ustedes. It's our masculine they, our feminine they, and our you, all, plural, formal. Okay? So, that's it for sale. See you next time.